The money arrived on a Thursday morning in the form of a letter. No wire transfer, no legal instrument, 2 typed pages delivered by courier to a university vice-chancellor's office. No letterhead, no return address. An unconditional endowment of $3 billion. Almost unconditional. The single condition was a list, 14 research questions, numbered. The university could pursue anything in the world except these 14. They were written with a precision that suggested whoever authored them understood each subject better than the people currently working in it. The legal team noted one more thing, buried in an internal memo. 3 of the 14 questions described research that did not exist yet, anywhere. No lab was asking them, no paper had proposed them. The board voted to accept the money anyway. The endowment was announced the following week. The list of 14 was not. Clara Souza was 26, a junior administrator in the grants office. She processed paperwork. She didn't set direction. She saw the list exist by accident, a misfiled folder open for less than an hour. She never read the 14 items. She only learned they existed and that the university had quietly organized itself around never mentioning them. So she started keeping a private record. Which proposals got sent back for revision that steered them elsewhere? Which visiting researchers gave one talk and were never invited back? Which finished papers drew a strange, fast call from administration before they were ever submitted anywhere? Not evidence of the list, the shape it left behind. She spent the next 22 years filling it in. There was a man, for a while, Daniel. He used to ask her some nights what she was really working on. Not the grants, the other thing, the one she brought home in her expression, but never in words. She gave him fragments, half-sentences that trailed off. Once, when he asked directly, she answered by describing her lunch. He left in her late 30s. He stood in the doorway of her study while she cross-referenced a withdrawn proposal against something she'd noticed 6 years before. He held her gaze for maybe 4 seconds. Then he walked out. She had his name on her tongue. She doesn't remember if she said it. What she remembers is that she turned back to the ledger before the front door closed. She noted the date in that same private ledger where she tracked the list. She never explained why she filed it there. By her mid-30s, she'd reconstructed 8 of the 14 questions. By her mid-40s, 11. The 11th changed things, not for what it asked, but for where she found its mirror. A paper in a journal she didn't normally read, from a research group in Zurich. Dry title. She nearly skipped it. Then the abstract's phrasing. A question posed in almost the exact words she'd reconstructed years earlier from administrative silence. The field did not exist when the letter arrived. By the time she held the printout, it had a journal, a conference, a funding stream. As if the letter hadn't merely restricted research. It had known which doors humanity would eventually knock on, before humanity did. She checked the other 2 questions the memo had flagged. One had also become real years later. Different field, different country. The same question, nearly word for word. The third has still not emerged as a field, anywhere, under any name. Which means Clara didn't fail to find it. It means nobody has become curious about it yet, anywhere. She retired quietly decades later. No publication, no record of the 22 years. In her last week, she requested the original letter. Denied. She'd expected that. What she hadn't expected was the note that arrived 2 days later, handwritten. 4 sentences from the Vice-Chancellor herself. The list had been reviewed every year since, and never once required amendment. Thousands of proposals had crossed the university's desks since, every direction a mind could wander. Not one had touched the 14. Not blocked, not warned off. The curiosity, the note said, simply hadn't arisen. Clara read it alone, in an apartment that had been quiet for 17 years. She thought about Daniel and the version of her life where she had told him what she was doing, instead of letting him stand in a doorway and leave without knowing why. And she understood, for the first time, that the list itself was the less interesting part. The letter had not predicted discoveries. In at least 2 documented cases, it had predicted the moment a mind, somewhere, became capable of asking a particular question. A thought no scientist believed had existed before them, already anticipated decades earlier. Not the answer, the asking itself. She never wrote down what that implied about the other 12. The endowment continues. The university continues. The third question, the one Clara never found, has not yet been discovered. Somewhere, someone is about to become curious about it for the first time. They will believe the thought was theirs.